Yo, what is up, my fallopian tubers? Cesario from the barrio coming back at you with another video for your butt. So today I am doing a storytelling video. One of the stories in baseball that's everything, great story. One of the things why I love baseball so much. So the story actually revolves around Rich Donnelly. If you're not familiar with the name Rich Donnelly, and the reason why I'm making this video is because I just the other day I opened a care package and it had the famous chicken. And anytime I think of the chicken in baseball, I think of the chicken runs at midnight. All right, and the origins behind the chicken runs at midnight, because I made a video where I mentioned that before, like I don't know how long ago or when it was, whatever, but I mentioned that before in the video. One of my favorite stories is chicken runs at midnight, and there was a couple of comments that were like, hey, I want to know the chicken runs at midnight story. Like, you can't just tease us like that. So I think I'm going to tell it now, in case you haven't heard it. I'm sure all you guys have heard it before, but like I said, this revolves around Rich Donnelly and his daughter Amy. His daughter Amy just one day calls him and tells him, hey dad, I got a brain tumor. Like, I'm sorry, but I have a brain tumor. And crushed him, as it would any parent. You know what I mean? And they were in the hunt. He was coaching for the Pittsburgh Pirates, not the head coach. I think he was third base coach at the time. And so they fly in his daughter and the family and stuff for Game 5 in the playoffs. I think they were playing Atlanta or something. And she she sees her dad, like, he's coaching third base and he's yelling at the runner on second, hey, you do that little funnel thing to make your voice go louder. You talk to the second baseman, the runner on second base. You're the third base coach. So the daughter's in the stands, like, she can't hear him because the crowd is so loud, and she's just wondering in her mind, like, what? I don't know what he's telling them. I wonder what he's telling them. So on the way home from that game, the daughter, she's in the back seat. She leans to the front and says, hey dad, like, what are you yelling at the guy on second base? When you're going, like, what are you yelling? Like, I can't hear you. What are you yelling? The chicken runs at midnight? And then he's all like, what? Like, what does that mean? And she's like, I don't know, it just came out. You know what I mean? She just out of nowhere made the phrase, the chicken runs at midnight. So she said, I don't know what it is. It just came out. And then there's Game 7. All right. And she gives him a note for Game 7 while he's still with the Pirates. And she writes a note like, I love you, dad, and this and that. And she writes, the chicken runs at midnight. So he's the coach, right? And he's reading it in the dugout. And then in comes Jose Lind. So Jose Lind, like, looks at the note, and he could barely really even speak English. He wasn't that fluent in English at the time. And you're like, hey, what's that? Like, because he can't read. He's like, what's that? Like, what's that say? And Donnelly tells him, oh, it says the chicken runs at midnight. And he's like, oh, okay, all right. And he goes around, running around, telling all the players, the chicken runs at midnight. The chicken runs at midnight. And all the players are just like, what? And he goes around telling everybody the chicken runs at midnight. And he actually comes out on TV during the broadcast telling all the players, the chicken runs at midnight. And man, can you imagine Amy, his daughter, and her, Tim, her brothers are watching the game, and they see on TV a player on TV saying the chicken runs at midnight. Some, I don't know, gibberish? Would you call it? She just said some gibberish. She didn't really mean to say it. And then after that, it became a thing in their family. They always say, hey, the chicken runs at midnight. The chicken runs at midnight. It was just like a inside joke between the family. You know what I mean? It was some gibberish. Didn't mean anything. She just made it up on the spot. All right. So Obviously Amy and her brothers are going crazy because they see this thing on TV. Um, but at the end, the team lost. You know what I mean? But it still made their day because their family gibberish was on TV, and nobody knew what it meant, and everybody was into it. Like apparently, like during the game, all the players are like, "The chicken runs at midnight." The chicken runs at midnight. Like, nobody knew where it came from or anything, but everybody was saying it. And then unfortunately, 3 months later, Amy went into a coma. So the Pirates lost that game. And but it made her day hearing everybody saying the chicken runs at midnight. And so they lost that game, and then 3 months later, Amy goes into a coma. Amy goes into a coma, and the doctor calls Rich and like, "Hey, your daughter's in very bad shape. I suggest you coming out, and say goodbye." So he goes in to say his goodbyes, and shortly, Amy passes away. She was 17 years old at the time. So when she passed away, they even put that on her tombstone. Like when they were at the funeral services, or what, like not services, but like paying for it or whatever, and the whole family was there. And the tombstone people asked them, "Would you want any message written on it?" And everybody immediately said, "The chicken runs at midnight," like some gibberish that didn't mean anything. That was just cool. You know what I mean? It was just came out of her mouth. She didn't know why she said it. Didn't really have a meaning. It was just gibberish, 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 right? So, anyways, they put that on her tombstone, and then about 4 years later, after she passed away, Amy was like a big sports fan, wanted her to be just like her dad, and she played baseball and everything, and dreamt about the World Series, but they lost that game, so she never got to live it. You know, but in 1997, Rich Donnelly was coaching third base for the Florida Marlins. So in 1997, this was Game 7. They were playing the Cleveland Indians. Can I still say Cleveland Indians? That's what they were at the time. Or I have to say Guardians. I don't know. Don't cancel me. And so anyways, they're playing the Cleveland Indians, and the Indians are favored to win. And Rich Donnelly's coaching third base, and they're Game 7. All right, and they go into extra innings, and so it's getting late. It's 11. It's the 11th inning. All right, and then on third base they have Craig Counsell. Craig Counsell is on third base, and Renteria is batting with the bases loaded, 2 outs, Game 7, 11th inning. They're in extra innings, and if you guys don't know, Greg Counsell, his nickname is the Chicken Man. But that's kind of something that got mainstream, the Chicken Man. It actually came from Rich Donnelly's son. Rich Donnelly's son was the bat boy, Tim. Tim was the bat boy for the... Oh my lord. Where am I at? At this time, Florida Marlins. And so he's the bat boy. And so he's there watching all the games and all the practice and stuff. And Craig Counsell, if you guys never seen him bat, he kind of had like a Darryl Strawberry, but even higher. Like Darryl Strawberry was a little bit more flatter, but Craig Counsell was like crazy. He used to bat like this, if you guys don't know. Let me get a bat, listen. So Craig Counsell would bat like this, and stuff. So his son, which was a youngin' at the time, called him Chicken Wing. And then his brother would help out also. Sometimes his older brother would help out, and they would both do the bat boy thing. and they called Craig Counsell Chicken Wing because of that. So that was like the name they gave him with Chicken Wing. But once it got mainstream, it just became the Chicken Man. But anyways, Renteria, boom, hits it up the middle. Hits it up the middle. Craig Counsell scores. Florida wins the World Series. You know, so Rich Donnelly was on a team where they won the World Series, but unfortunately his daughter wasn't there to share the experience with them. You know, uh, so she was gone, but he was, you know, in the moment, and then he sees his son, and his son is like crazy excited, jumps on him, you know what I mean, jumps on top of him, and like, Dad, we won. He's all, Dad, look, and you know, he's all like, what, why? He's like, Dad, look at the clock. And Rich Donnelly turns around, looks at the clock. It's midnight. You know, it's exactly midnight. And his dad and his son Tim, he was like, Dad, the chicken really did run at midnight. The chicken did run at midnight. Because Craig Counsell was the Chicken Man. And the Chicken Man ran at midnight and scored the winning run and fulfilled like kind of like their destiny. And I'm not gonna say that without a backup from, I think it was Sandy Alomar. I think it was Sandy Alomar that every time he would see Rich Donnelly, he would tell him, he's like, why didn't you tell us that game was fixed? You know, like, we had no chance of winning. That game was destiny. That game was destiny. You know, and it was. So, that's my, it's not my story. That's the chicken scores at midnight story. So I thought I'd share it in case you haven't heard it. I'm sure everybody did, already knows about that, but I love that story, man. It's badass. It's just couldn't be written better. You know, if it was written up to be a movie. So, love the hobby, people. And just keep collecting baseball cards forever, I say. Ciao. Chicken runs at midnight. It's midnight. Run. What? I heard Jose Lynn. The chicken runs at midnight.